Point 3, process configuration files. So this is the last video of Part C. In this one, I want to explain how to process configuration files. In the real-world programming, you do not do this part explicitly because this part is done in a hidden way, behind the scene, by the framework, by the technology. Yeah. But the reason for our first introduction example, we want to show you what happened behind the scene. So we use this simple example to go through all the details. So then when you understand the whole framework, so you have a better idea. Yeah. All right, so let us start. First, parsing configuration information in container. We use a text file, right? Two types, one java.properties file, another XML configuration file. All right. Then some program needs to read content of the file and process it line by line in the java.properties case and element by element in the XML case. Now, here, in our example, we use the java.properties file. Now, all right, so here I want to look at the main processing part. Now, in the containers Java class, remember in this example we have a container .java program. So in this program, then we need to have this parsing part. Yeah. All right. Yeah. In this try block, we do the parsing. Yeah. First, we use the Java properties class. The properties class is designed to process the format, the data inside the properties file. Okay. Convenient methods you can use to do the processing. It's very easy. Yeah. All right, so you get this properties object, so you can use to do the processing. Then load configuration file. Now, here we call the configuration file components.properties. All the Java properties file must use the .properties extension. This is long extension, okay? Yeah. Long extension. Yeah. And the file name called the components .extensions, .properties, the file. Yeah. All right. Then a for loop. Yeah. In this for loop, yeah, because this class process properties based on the key value pairs. Key value pairs. Yeah. So the key value pair corresponds to the map structure, because in a map object, each entry is a key value pair. Each entry is a key value pair. Yeah. So for that reason, properties, so this object dot entry set. All right. So this method read all the properties, then parse, extract key value remember the format we use for the properties. My key equals my value, right? Yeah. That's the format. So this method extract the key part, then also extract the value part, right? And then make it entry and put it in the entry object. Yeah, this time map.entry type. Yeah, so look at that. Yeah. All right, then we can access key and value from this entry object. Yeah. Now the key, so we extract the key part. So entry.getKey, yeah. Extract the key part. So you get a key string. Yeah. Then we get a value part. Entry.getValue, we get the value. Yeah. So that's the way you read key value for each property. Yeah. Now you can use that to do further processing. So the next processing, we call this process entry and pass key value to this method. But what is this method, right? What is this method? So this is a private method in this container class. In our next slide, we will see the details of this method. This is the main processing method. So you can see it's from its name, the main processing method in the container. It's this method, process entry method. Yeah. All right. So here you can see for this part, relatively easy. Yeah. This part you just read data from the configuration file, then you retrieve key value information, then you call the private method, process entry method. Private method, that means only this class, container class, can call it. Outside classes, objects, outside environment, you cannot access the private methods. Yeah. All right. Next, I want to use this segment to explain this details in this private method, process entry. Yeah. Here, in this method, we need to use a special class, property utils. So this class comes from, it's not from the Java, okay? It's not from the Java JDK. So it's not in JDK, Java JDK. It is, so you need to download. So you need to download the jar file, jar library file containing this class from Apache Commons. Apache, open source organization, open source software foundation, Apache. Yeah. In Apache, there is a project called a Commons project. So there are many useful libraries are developed, organized under that Commons project. Okay, yeah. So we download Apache Commons, certain version, jar library. Yeah. For this example, I give you that jar library files. So you do not need to download by yourself. Yeah. So I include it in the program. Yeah. Then we use this property utils class. Yeah. All right. So next, let me show you how to use this class. Yeah. All right, so first, process entry private. All right, yeah, so private. So we do not allow outside people to access this method. Yeah, sometimes we like to do it in this way. Yeah. All right. Next, then here I show you the data. Yeah, because when we understand the code, we may need to use the structure of the data in this part. So you get the idea. Yeah. Why are we doing this way? Because we want to use the structure here. All right, so the data, yeah, 3 lines, 3 properties, yeah, using equal signs to separate key part and the value part. Yeah. So you can see the key and the value. Yeah. Key part goes to key, yeah. So value part goes that part. Okay, yeah, in that way. Yeah. All right. Next, first split. Yeah. Parts, string array. Yeah, so we get a string. So we get a string from key. Okay, so that's this and this. That's the key part. Okay, the key part. Key part, we use the dot character to split it. Yeah. For the first key, there is no dot, right? So you only get one element array because no dot character in it. So you get a 1 element array. Second, also no dot in the key. But the third one, there is a dot. Okay? This dot is used to separate report service, that's our business service object name. Report generator, that is the property we define for this object. This object has a property. Then we want to set this property by dependency injection. So here we are going to implement that dependency injection, right? Yeah, so that's why we need to give the property name to use as dependency injection. Now, set that property. Setter, right? We use the setter way to do dependency injection. Yeah. All right. So now you understand. But why double slash, right? Yeah. Double backslash. Yeah. So that's in Java. In many situations, we use double backslash. Why? First, backslash is a special character. Yeah. Escape, right? We use backslash to escape special character. Now, because this dot is a special character, right? Dot is a special character in Java. So we should be careful. Now we want to use that dot not as special character. We want to use it as the, use it as a special, as the original literal character. So we want to escape it. Escape the dot. Okay, yeah. So that's why here you use the double backslash. Escape that escape character. Use it for the dot character. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Here sometimes it is a little hard to understand why you do it this way. Anyway, so it's hard to understand, you just use it in this way, right? Yeah, because we learn this way from existing examples. Yeah. I got this example from somewhere. So this example, not developed by myself. I got from somewhere. Yeah. All right. But here in the third case, because there is this dot character, then after you call that split, you get a 2-element array. 2-element array. So you can use the array length to check which case you have. When length equals 1, that's the first two cases. When length equals 2 or greater than 1, now you have the third line case. All right, so let's understand the next part. Now, so we use if statement. We look at two different cases. The first case, length equals 1. Yeah. So you only have one string in that key without dot character. Yeah. So when you have that format, you expect you want to create a component using that name. Yes, using that name. All right. So new component definition. Yeah. All right. Then the second case, you have that dot. So you have a component name. You also have the property name separated by that dot. So you want to do the dependency injection. So you separate two cases. Yeah. Then we do the, corresponding jobs in each block, right? If block. Yeah. The first if block, object component. Yeah. Now, so you want to instantiate. You want to create an instance using the class specified here. The class. Okay. That's the Java class. Yeah. All right. But how do you do it? Because the class name is specified here. The class name is specified here. So these classes we called dynamic classes. Dynamic classes. What do you mean dynamic classes? So those classes at the development time, yeah, the Java developer who writes this program, he or she does not know this dynamic class. Does not know it. What's the name of it? Yeah. So here you can see you need to call a class. You need to call its constructor to construct an object without knowing its class name at the development time. How can you do it, right? You want to call its constructor, the constructor of a class, but at the development time, you do not know its class name. How do you do it? Now here, we learn how to do it. All right. We use this way because these are the dynamic classes. So we use class.forename, class, capital class. Yeah. You know capital object, right? In Java. So there is a class called a capital object. There is also another class called a capital class. Okay. So these two capital classes, these two are very special. These two are very special. Yeah. So in our module 2, after we finish this part, we will start module 2. In the module 2, I will use one class session to study complete details, the background behind these two basic classes. Yeah. We need to have that background. Otherwise, when we understand the code, it is very hard. Yeah. So now we use that capital class, the class name dot forename. So this method, forename of this class, because we can also call class. First one is the name. The second one, it is a class, right? The class. Yeah. Dot forename. This method of the class is used to load dynamic classes. full name, you can load Java class dynamically. Okay? Yeah, dynamically. So the program already running. When it is running, it can load any Java class. Okay? All right. So the value, because value corresponds to this name, right? Yeah. So when you pass this name to this full name method, it will be loaded into the JVM, the environment. So you can use that class. After you use it, yeah, so you have a dynamic class, right? Loaded. Then how to use it to construct an object? You do not know the object name, right? You do not know the class name. Although here the class name, but it's not convenient to call constructor, right? So here, this new instance method, you do not need to use its constructor's name, right? So you just call the constructor. We just call its constructor. Yeah. Here you can see there is no argument. No argument. Because you do not know what argument to use, right? Yeah. So this class should have a no arg constructor. No arg constructor. Yeah. So when you do not know how to pass arguments to the constructor, you can still call it. You use the no arg constructor. Yeah. All right. So that's the, loading dynamic class and construct an object. After you construct it, then you store it in the components. Components.put. Remember, the component is a map object. Remember? Yeah. At the beginning, we define component as a map object. As a map object, we need to store an entry. Remember the entry in a map. Parts of 0, that's from this array. The first element in the array is the name of the component. Yeah, the name, that's the key. Key, name, the same thing. Yeah. So you use the key, name. Yeah. Key, right? Yeah. Parts. Then the second one, this the object created using this dynamic way. The component object created dynamically. So you pass as the second parameter, yeah, argument. Yeah. All right, so in this way, you can see we instantiate a component object and store it in that map object. That's what we want to do. All right. So then let's look at the dependency injection part. How to do? Yeah. So this part harder than the previous one. The previous one already I explained a lot, yeah, because dynamic class, that concept. But this one even harder to explain. Yeah. So let's look at that. First, through the components, through that map, we retrieve, yeah, because we want to do dependency injection. When we do the dependency injection, we want to retrieve the component first. Okay? You should get appropriate component to do the dependency injection. Yeah. How to get that? Remember this map object, we retrieve a component by its key. Parts of 0, the first element, corresponds to the component name. We report service. For the third line, here you can assume we use the report service as its name to retrieve the component. Yeah. So that's this one because already created. Yeah. In the if part, that component already created. Yeah, it's ready there. So then we can retrieve it from the components. Yeah. after you get that object, next, that's the, next, before we do injection, we need to do another step. Yeah. Reference, okay? Components dot get value. Yeah. So this value, this part, value corresponds to this one. Okay. Value corresponds to this part. That is the name of the component you want to inject into the service object, right? Okay. So this is the dependency object. Dependency object. Yeah. So this dependency object, it corresponds to the value here, the value. So you pass the dependency object, the value, to the get method, so you get this reference for the dependency object. So you have your business object, you have the injection, to be injected. Yeah, dependency object to be injected. Yeah, you have both. The next line, you do the dependency injection work. How to do it? Yeah, that's the key part. That line is the key part. Yeah. All right. Look at this. Okay. Yeah, I need to erase. Yeah. So we look at clearly. Yeah. All right. Now we use the Apache Commons utility class. Property utils. Property utils dot set property. Set property. Okay. Yeah. We use that. Now we want to set a dynamic property. So here, yeah. Why this line is special? Because we need to set a dynamic property. So why dynamic property? Because at the development time, we do not know the property name. At the runtime, the name is retrieved from configuration file. So at the runtime, it is known. At development time, nobody knows it. How can you call a property setter when you do not know the property name? You do not know the property name when you write the code, but at the runtime, you need to call a method to set that property. How to do that? Here, this property utils allows us to do it. Set property, set general property. We do not know its name, but we just want to set a property. How to do it? Okay. All right. The component. Yeah. This one is the object we want to set its property. When you say property, you have to use a Java object, right, to set property inside this object. So this component is the object we want to set it. It's one of its internal property. Okay. All right. So then parts 1 at index 1, that's the property name. So here 1 after the dot, that's the report generator. So parts 1 corresponds to report generator. That's the property name. Okay. All right. Now you have the property name, but you also need the property object, the instance of the property. Yeah. It's an object. So it's a dependency object, right? So the reference here, it is the dependency object. You also want that. Okay. So you put all these three things you need in this set property method, you can set dynamic property. Here, in this way, you set dynamic property. That's the special thing this property utils can do. The special thing the properties can do. Okay, but what is this? Right? So you just told me we set dynamic property in this way, but what technology is used here, right? You may want to understand why things like this works, right? You may want to ask me this. So let me tell you, what is this? Okay? What is this? You may ask me, what is this? This is a special Java technology. So here, let me give you the name. The technology is called Java reflection technique. Java reflection technique. So the Java reflection technique allows you to call a dynamic method. Call a dynamic method. Because at the development time, you do not know the name of the method. So you do not know how to call it. But at the runtime, the name of the method will be known in some way. So you will have a way to get that name of the method so you can call it. But how to call it dynamically? Okay? So Java reflection technique allows you to do it. So in our module 2, I will use one part to explain the Java reflection technique. The reason is we may not use Java reflection by ourselves. We may not use, because to use it, it's pretty complicated. Although I like to give you some chance to practice that, but for this class, we have too many things to do. So we may not have time to practice this dynamic method call using Java reflection by ourselves. But this concept is very important for your understanding of other different technologies. In many other technologies, we need to use Java reflection. So people always talk about, by Java reflection, we do this, we do that. But if you do not know the Java reflection technique, the concept, you will get confused. So how do we use Java reflection to do this, right? So that's why in our module 2, I use one class session to give you the basics of Java reflection. All right, so let me stop here and complete this part C.